Hey, this is Mike Layton again, and we work with hundreds of contractors around the country, and I'm here today with one of the young rising stars of the HVAC industry, Trey McWilliams, who owns a growing business in East Texas. Trey, tell us a little bit about yourself and the type of market that you operate in.
Yeah, Mike. So first off, I appreciate the opportunity to get to come on and talk with you today. But I grew up in the family business, so I'm a third generation in a business my grandfather started after he retired from the Navy. Soon, with my dad graduating high school, joined the family business. And so I had the great privilege of working with my grandfather from about the age of 8 years old, riding in the service truck with him. And then as he retired, I kind of took the reins over while still in high school of running service on the weekends or running service during the summer. And then after high school, kind of fell into, what I thought was the thing that you just did as a kid growing up in a family business, as you went into the business with your parents. And so I did that and grew up, through it. And out of high school, started running service for my dad full time, done sales, and just kind of worked my way all the way through the business to eventually getting to a point where I started running the operational side of the business.
And that's there in Lufkin, Texas, right? Tell us a little bit about East Texas there and how that might be a little different than Houston or Dallas or some bigger metro areas. Tell us a little bit about the market. It's real similar to the ones that a lot of guys operate in, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a small communities that most of our businesses are located in. So Lufkin, being where McWilliams and Son started, has a population. The city's right around 30,000 in the city, and then a county just a little over 100,000 in the county. And we've grown a business focused on the residential side of the air conditioning side of the business, and then soon bolted on, done a little bit of commercial, and then just recently, in December of last year, acquired a plumbing company in an adjacent market and then brought it back to our Lufkin market, where we began to add plumbing as additional service line here in Lufkin. So we've built locations similar to the Lufkin market. We've kind of a hub and spoke. So we went, 30 minutes north of here, added a location, 30 minutes south, and through that we've been able to grow a business successfully in a small markets, and use a lot of the tactics that you could use in larger markets, but you can dominate cities a lot easier in these smaller markets, and that's the path that we chose to do on the McWilliams footprint side of things.
Yeah, and I know from your numbers, I'm not going to ask you to share all of them, but for those who are familiar with us, we can look at any market and see what the maximum theoretical potential sales could be in a county like the one you operate in and the adjoining ones. But you guys have grown to be about 50% of what I think the maximum could be in that market. I mean, you guys really, as you said, you have dominated a relatively small market, but you're producing some incredible growth out of it, aren't you?
Yeah. So we've had great growth, and as we look at those things, we start looking at, what is domination of a market, and that's one thing that led us to bring in plumbing. We own the customer's home, so we wanted to add additional service, and that's really what started triggering us is to add additional trades. Was not so much of just, hey, this will be easier, we can grow it because we have the customer base. It really came down to, we felt like we were getting to the point where we owned about as many customers we could own in a market, and that's what we elected to add plumbing. So, over the last, in 2010, I took over operations and really started changing the way we looked at business, how we marketed, what our people look like, our culture, all those things that, you hear so much about today. That's really probably 2010 is really when we put it under the microscope and began to take true action. We were doing about $1.4 million in revenue at that point, and we'll close out this year north of probably $25 million in revenue.
And wow, I mean, so work backwards a little bit from 2010 when you sort of took over ops. When did you get out of high school, and when did you make the jump to being in charge?
Yeah, so graduated high school in 2004, and again, I had ran service and done installs all my high school career. So came out of high school be able to run, service as probably as good as anybody that was working for the family business at the time, and was willing to put in the work, put in all the time. But about 2010, it was kind of like I got to a crossroads there, and just I didn't like the culture. I didn't like the projection the company was on. I didn't mind putting in the work, putting in the time, and but I did not enjoy kind of what the fruits of that labor were producing at that time. And I was very fortunate to be able to have a dad that was in the business that was also very understanding. Went to him and said, "Hey, these are some things that I think we need to change. I'm willing to put in the work." And probably within 10 minutes of that conversation, my dad looked at me and said, "Trey, if you'll put in the work, then I'll get behind you. I'll figure out the marketing stuff. But it's we're going to have to take a leap of faith, and you're going to have to put in the time and the work to do it." And we were able to do that, and that's really where we started getting serious of like true planning of what we want this business to look like. And it was a tough road, because I would say that by 2014, we didn't have anybody that had worked for my dad other than a secretary that was still with us. So over that 4 years, we had a lot of people leave, and really we upgraded a lot of people, and those people that left, needed to leave. But it was a tough 4 years of just being the guy that knowing that anytime you're going to fire someone or let someone go because of what your standards were, that really that workload was just going to fall on your shoulders, and that you had to pick that workload up. And so I would say 2010, 2014, I worked my fair share of hours those years.
And there's so many HVAC contractors who started off in a business with other family members, right? Could be a father-in-law, could be a parent like you did, and other siblings. Who influenced you the most in those first 5 years or so that kind of shaped the vision that you brought to the family business to sort of take it to the next level, outside of Dad and Grandpa?
So I would say, though, with that, my dad was pretty instrumental of showing me, honestly, what a servant, what servanthood was all about, because he fully understood. Like, he set his ego aside and was which was, I think, a tough thing to do, of letting a son come in and pioneer the business to a different area. But I would say, as I look back and thought about that quite a bit, was, I was really engaged in sports through high school. So a lot of the disciplines and the work ethic, a lot of that came from that high school sports and this being super competitive. But when I start looking at, what are maybe the industry people or the industry, what are the things that you could get involved in today that help shape mine? I think truly there's better practice groups. And at the time, that was Service Nation Alliance that was instrumental, and it was more instrumental of who they connected me to than actually the resources they supplied, which is getting with like-minded business owners that were struggling like I was. And you don't feel alone at that point. And second is, I think the home service industry is such a giving industry. I mean, the information's out there if you make a phone call. So it's really about being willing to put yourself out there, and then being committed to the implementation side that it takes to make, to make all that successful.
So the guys you were running around with 2010, right around there, other coaches, if you will, right, other business owners who were probably older than you at the time. Now you got about 10, 12 years to look back on what they told you when you were really young. As the years have gone by, how's their advice aged? The things they told you when you were 20, right, 25. How's that looking today? Has that advice changed or been off target, or you just you see it differently now that, you've been doing this for 18 years? So I can do that math, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, so I think we live I think the trades industry is a very fast evolving business right now. So I think the thing that stuck with me the most is probably just the consistency of refining the process in your business. So a lot of what they taught me at that point, true implementing items that were, moved the needle for my business at the time. I think a lot of those we've outgrown, or the industry's evolved to where those aren't needed, or they went a different direction. But the true process of understanding that there's always a better way of doing something, and that's what you work for every day. I think that's probably the life lessons, or the things that I've probably stuck with me, is like the ability to adapt and the ability to implement. Those things, I think, are true skill sets that will stand the test of time.
You do tend to bring people into the shop and give them a chance. I think you got a fantastic training room where people can come in and see the processes that you've got going on. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we have an open door. I mean, I love meeting people because I'm going to learn a ton from all the different contractors that come to our location. So it's just as impactful and important for me to meet them guys and girls also. So we have kind of a policy, like, it's open doors, so email me anytime, and more than welcome, we'll accommodate. But yes, we do have a couple different events here that we've done. Is my sister owns a marketing company, and me and my sister do at Lemon Seed Marketing, that they have a big event every year that we bring a lot of the people from the industry to really just share what they believe the future is going to look like, and just re-energize a lot of the different clients she has, along with we have a training facility here, a full school. Currently, we just use it for our internal use only, but we have a school next door that has a plumbing and training lab that we bring guys from zero experience to ready to be in a truck. So we have a unique facility here that has a lot to offer, and a lot to just see different things that we do in the industry that may be unique to others. And
unlike somebody in a bigger market, you in a market your size, you really have to kind of develop your own techs and plumbers, don't you?
Yeah. So, which we found, I think that's probably true for whatever market you're in. At the speed and the scale a lot of these companies are wanting to grow, you can't rob enough talent. So you got to start building your own talent. So that's something that we've been committed to. Probably, I think the last number I looked at was like 92% of our field staff today are from outside the industry, meaning we brought them into the industry, which is a big number and something we're proud of, because they're taught the right way. The only way they know how to do it is the way we've taught them, and they don't have the bad habits. So we're able to hire just over aptitude, who they are, what their dreams are, instead of looking for a plumber or an HVAC guy with a skill set.
Well, I'm still struck by how young you are and how much you've accomplished in the meantime. But you can't look backwards 30 years like some of the original guys that were around when you started hanging around Service Roundtable, right? You just don't have that. But you do have the benefit of having to look forward at your age, 30 some odd years. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenges for young business owners like yourselves, who are growing real fast, who are adding trades, who are looking at new markets to go into, maybe because you've done such a good job of dominating the markets you're in? What do you think is going to be the biggest challenges for the home service industry as you look forward 10, 20, 30 years?
So I think the two biggest ones will be managing employee and customer expectations. I think and I think they're both very similar in what they expect, and I think that's going to be probably the most challenging thing. I think technology and a lot of the other things people may worry about, of equipment and all that, I think that it still requires the contractor to be on board with that. So I think a lot of that is still within the contractor's control. But I think the expectations of employees and customers, I think, is something that's set by just the environment and the social media and all these different things that help create this, that we really don't have a lot of say-so over. So the ability just to adjust, and how do we manage those expectations moving forwards, I think that will be the thing that probably keeps me up at night of trying to figure out.
Yeah, social media makes it a little, in years past, a disgruntled customer you kind of take care of it one-on-one. That's not really the case anymore. Managing that expectation is a little bit more difficult than it was 20 years ago, I would say, right?
Yeah, and I think just the access to knowledge, whether that's pricing I think it just levels the playing field on a lot of different fronts, and it also just it equips them with a lot of information that sometimes is going to be challenging to overcome.
So, there's the advice for the business owner, and then there's the advice that, the technician who's coming into a shop like yours and entering the trade, they're, high school age, 20 years old, whatever it is. What advice would you give a technician who's really just starting out, whether they're a plumber, whether they're HVAC technician, whatever they're?
As we grew our business over the years, the thing I probably look back and say, what was instrumental was every position I was in, I created a process that allowed me to really work myself out of a job, right? So as a technician, I built this. I knew how efficient you could be. I knew what the sales opportunity was. We built a lot of the processes, built a lot of the components that made those things work. And then as I moved different positions, and then as I hired my team members, Brad that works with me and Shay, they done the same exact thing throughout there. So as you look back on our business today, one of the three of us probably built 95% of every process that's in my business today. So I think if I was talking to my younger self, it would be just perfect the process and work yourself out of a job.
And so a young technician who isn't sort of on the ownership track, I mean, what do you advise that guy to do? Is it go out on your own after you really are ready, or try and move up in the organization? I mean, what kind of advice would you give to the young listeners?
Yeah, so I think there's all types of different personalities, and I think it takes special people to really step out and grow your own business, because you're no longer a technician. You're a marketer. You're focused on leadership. You're focused on managing cash. Like, there's all these other jobs that come along with this starting your own business. The first thing I would do is really evaluate where I'm at today. Am I partnered with the right company that can create the opportunity for me? And if I am, that's probably what I'm focused on. If I'm not, I'm focused on going and finding that business to partner with, to be the employee of with that opportunity. Because I think there's a ton of opportunity in our industry today without having to be in the ownership role of it. And that's where I would focus at. If they want to own their own business, I think they need to be fully equipped to understand the financial side, the marketing side, the process side of the business. So even if that was the direction they were going to go, I'd go work for a great company to learn all those skill sets before I decided to start out on my own.
Yeah, one of the cool things about the industry that I encounter is lots of young guys who leave companies that have been recently bought, right? And they say they're going to go out on their own, and there are a few people like yourself who can learn everything on their own and survive making the mistakes. And then there's a lot of others who are really the strongest technician or the strongest comfort advisor, and then they go out on their own and they didn't know the processes or all the other stuff you have to know about HR and taxes and cash flow and everything else. And they don't thrive until they partner up with another person who has those strengths, right? That's why for a lot of technicians coming into an organization like yours and growing, like you said, work yourself out of a job so that you can be promoted. But we're seeing a lot of that. A lot of young guys who are taking the plunge, or they're moving to another organization and kind of reinvigorating it for the older guys.
Yeah, I think that's what you got to look at is when you're in that position is like, what do I really want? What's the end result that I'm looking for? And I think if they're really honest with themselves, some of them, it isn't about owning the business. It's about, hey, maybe it's an earning opportunity or it's a freedom opportunity. I think that's really where you need to focus on and go find that job that allows you to achieve your goals when it comes to that. Because as we deal with a more and more complex business that these businesses are becoming, I think it takes a more sophisticated operator that takes you out of that, interaction of dealing with with customers and a lot of stuff that drives the guys in their field today. It takes you away from that, like the feeling of accomplishment. Well, a lot of times, you're never done. It's as soon as you get a problem almost solved, you hand it off to someone else to complete it. So you never have those wins that you're used to getting as a technician, because there's a piece of fulfillment there that when you go to someone's house and it's got a broken unit and you fix it, there's a lot of satisfaction when it comes to that. But when you move into the ownership role of this business, you're always passing that glory on to someone else.
Well, how do you coach your kids through that, right? You really talk about making people part of a team, right? They have to get the sense of accomplishment from the team win instead of figuring out all on their own.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we try to do is we call it giving them a seat at the table. So it's a lot of bringing your next, performers up that can, move into a leadership position, is really start exposing them to what it's like on the other side. And some of them find out, hey, that's exactly what I want to do, or some of them find out, say, I don't want to be stuck in the office all day. So I think giving your team as an owner trying to retain these technicians that are wanting more and more out of their positions, I think it's about giving them a seat at the table and exposure so they can start seeing, hey, what is it really like doing what Trey does every day? And is that really what I want to do?
Tell us how people can reach out and get and kind of make some contact with you for a little help, either from Lemon Seed or yourself. Just how do people reach out to you?
Yeah, so the best way to get a hold to me or to I keep up with it is my email. So it's Trey, Trey, at McWilliams and Son, SON.com. So Trey at McWilliams and Son.com would be the best way.
Well, everybody, any of the listeners who want to reach out to Trey, he's a very busy guy. He's got a lot going on, given either to other people in the industry, traveling to trade shows and training sessions and whatnot. But he will reach out to you if you kind of reach out to him. Ryan, who's his right-hand person, does a pretty good job of clarifying questions that people might have and pass them on to Trey. So I'd encourage anybody that, particularly you younger listeners, who kind of want to follow that path that Trey's taken, where he's taken over a family business, which is difficult in and of itself. Working with family is not easy, and then growing that business and putting his own stamp on it. Just reach out to Trey and see if you can't learn from one of these young rising stars in the industry. And I just appreciate you, Trey, making the time to kind of share some of your background. Hopefully that'll encourage somebody to reach out to you who's in a similar situation. And we can all continue to share and progress in this industry.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Mike. It's a great industry. And I love helping out people. And, again, I'll learn probably just as much from your business as you learn from mine. So I'm always eager and happy to open up my building and share some ideas and build a new relationship.